Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Dubé. Welcome back to another class online. My dog is home today, so it might be the wild, wild west. We will see. Today we have just a few things going on, a couple clarifications, which we'll get to at the end of the PowerPoint. We really just have two things to do today. The first one is for you to pause and post. There's a Padlet address right here. It's also in the module. And you're going to pause and post. You guys were assigned some readings on test questions yesterday. So I want you to go ahead and pause and give me some do's and don'ts for each type of test question that's there. It's your name. There are shelves for each kind of test question. So you should post on, you can do all but one shelf if you would like. So I will assume that you are pausing now and posting. All right. I'm assuming that you are done posting, and those will be your interactions for this week. Your postings on the Padlet that you just looked at. That leads us to a test question overview. This is more text that I ever have on slides. This is more information than I usually give, but this is a really hard thing to do in this format. So I'm going to give you some information and some guidelines. For multiple choice tests, these are our experts' advice in terms of writing multiple choice tests, do's and don'ts. Do test on material that's been explicitly taught. Do arrange the questions so that there's a progression of difficulty. They start off with something that's like, I got that one. I know that one. And that helps ease anxiety as kids take tests. Do use to achieve efficiency. Multiple choice are very efficient questions, but they are appropriately used with knowledge goals. Multiple choice questions are harder to use with higher order thinking because, it can be done, but knowledge goals are often the best for that. Do make sure all answers are viable. Like there's got to be something in them that would make them under contention as a correct answer, but there should be one clear best answer that really is defensible. Do bold or highlight important words or key words. Do check for appropriate word choice. Don't use words that could be confusing. Do ask students to circle the letters to avoid confusion. Instead of having them write the letter on a blank at the beginning of the thing, have them actually circle it on the test or type in the answer if you're taking it online, of course. Do not include trick questions. It's not the point of a test. Do not use double negatives. So which of these are not found in zero cases or blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm talking about. And then do not give the answer away. We want to make it, something you have to think about, but we also don't want to be like, hey, here's the right answer with bright light shining on it. And do not include options like all but C or all of the above. You can say which of these is not included in the list of things to do, blah, 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 blah. That's different than saying all but C or all of the above. Those can be really, really tricky. Now you might say all of my professors do this. I've heard that many times before. They do all the do's and they don't do all the do nots. And that is, not everybody is trained in assessment. So you are going to end up knowing more than even some of your professors, and that's okay. It's not okay for you. But when you don't do these right, then you have to curve the test because the test isn't good. So we're going to make our tests so that they don't need to be curved. We're actually not going to make a test, but if we were, we would. Okay, so that's what you need to know about multiple choice questions. Da-da-da! All right, moving right along. True, false, my least favorite question. Boo, I hate true, false. Boo, I hated them as a student. I hate them as a teacher. Okay, do test on material that's been explicitly taught. Do ensure appropriate alignment to, it's usually knowledge goals. Do bold and highlight key or important words. And do pay attention to appropriate word choice. All of these are repeats. This is very important. Do assess only one thing in the question. Do have them circle, not write, the answer. I'll show you an example of how that backfires if you have them write the answer. Do make sure the statement is either all true or all false. Do ask students to explain their reasoning. This right here, this bolded item, is the only thing that I think makes true false okay, is if you say circle true or false and then explain your reasoning, because sometimes they can see something that you didn't see. Maybe you're one of those people who are like, I always see something that the test designer didn't see. So asking students to explain their reasoning, I think if you're going to use true false, you need to include that. Don't include trick questions, don't use double negatives, and don't give the answer away. Okay, so bottom line, true, false, all true or all false, and ask students to explain their reasoning. Make sure they circle, not write, because even asking students to write out true or false can backfire. I don't know if you can see by looking at that you could say either of those is everything that's written there. It's true and false both. Can you see the true? True is easier to see, I think, than you're like, oh, wait, that's also false. Can you imagine the amount of time it took to do that? I think it's hilarious. Okay. Dun, da, da, next, do and don't matching. Matching really can only be used with knowledge goals. So we want to make them as appealing as we can with one clear answer, and they should be short. You shouldn't have to read a whole long thing and then find one word to match it with. Make sure both sets to match are on the same page. So don't have like one, the terms on one page and the definitions on the other. Do provide more possible answers than matching options. So like you've got them, maybe you have 10 items, you have 12 things to match it to. So 2 of them are not used. Otherwise, students can use process of elimination and they're not really showing you what they know. Do put definitions on the left and answers on the right. Do not set out to be tricky. Do not use draw lines for matching. And do not mix content of answers. So it's either all dates, it's all names, or it's all vocabulary. If you mix them up like that, they can use process of elimination. Now for what we're doing for our assignment this year, instead of doing a test and doing a formative assessment analysis, I'm going to have you create 4 test questions, then send that to people. And that's going to in a Google form, and that's going to be your formative assessment. So you're not actually making a test. So matching would not be a good fit if you only have 4 questions. Does that make sense? So you probably will not be creating any matching here. But if someday you do, remember these guidelines. All right. Dun, da, da, next. Fill in the blank. Do make questions appealing, one clear answer, short, clear, and in context. Remember that blank placement within the sentence matters. So you're going to have a sentence with a word in the middle, like pick which word. Do include a line for answering at the beginning of the question. In other words, I'm going to just show you that right now. See, usually when I do this, you're like, oh my gosh, so many questions. We do this, insert new slide. Okay, so here is the blank, and then I would say number 1. Period. So here's the blank, but they don't write the word in here. They write the word here. Otherwise, it's too easy to miss it when you're grading it. You have to think about yourself as a grader. You want to look down this row and see what's supposed to, all of the correct answers in a row. So here would be the same thing. Here's the blank. Then number 2. Does that make sense? I mean, of course, this doesn't make sense, but the principle hopefully makes sense. Okay, carrying on. Do make sure that questions are completion questions and not selected response. Like don't make it a multiple choice question with a blank in the middle of it. In other words, do set expectations and let people know ahead of time. Like let kids know spelling doesn't matter. Like it's okay if you don't spell it right. Are you okay if they write a synonym? Like you should think about that ahead of time. And in general, like if they know it, they just write it incorrectly. It should be okay. Oh, sorry, I'm really tired. Do use word banks only if terms are very similar. Okay, it's the dog. That was not me making that noise. That was my dog. Do assess common misconceptions. Do make sure there's only one appropriate answer, and don't try to be tricky, and don't have, I'd say, one blank person per question. And I don't know what this even says. You can see it in the slides that will be posted. I'm so sorry. Okay, fill in the blank. Dun da da. Next, short answer essay. There are some asterisks there, and that is because one of your questions must be short answer essay. Hey, Theo, no sir. No sir. That's a good dog. Sorry. Okay, short answer essay questions. These are our higher level questions. They're open-ended, and they shouldn't look like the death toll is death. Okay, what am I trying to say? Death knell is tolling? Yes, it's from a poem. I don't remember which one. It should be just like our pre-assessment questions, like there's something inviting about it. Make sure questions are focused and appropriate for time constraints. So for you guys, it'll be a short answer, not an essay. Craft a clear prompt and pay attention to your word choice. Pull questions directly from your learning goals. You can link what they've learned, those UKDs, with other experiences if you want to make connections, but they should be experiences that are accessible to everybody. You can provide a checklist, like make sure you. This is more for essay than for short answer. Make sure you provide enough time. Establish a clear scoring system, and I'll show you more about that in a minute. And then grade on a scaled rubric to look for trends, so that if you especially with an essay question, you can have a single point rubric even for this, a criterion checklist, so that you can look and see how kids do on it and what they're missing and what they're getting right. Theo, no. Provide length expectations. Okay, so what your job to do is to craft 4 test questions. I'm going to amend this to say, you need at least, no, we'll do 3 different types. Yeah, 3 different types. So matching is out of the question. You have to have a short answer. So that leaves you with fill in the blank and multiple choice. So you'll have to have one of each of those. Use the do's and don'ts slides to check your questions and revise if necessary. You will also have to include answers and scoring criteria. In addition, you're going to write the UK or D that you are assessing next to each question. And then you'll be giving feedback to your classmates, which we'll talk about in a minute. You're going to craft these 4 test questions, and then you're going to post them in a discussion board. All right. So for each question, ask yourself, is this aligned to my UKDs? Has it adhered to the guidelines from those slides and from your readings? And then in general, which is the best question to use in this situation and why? Which question needs the most work and why? Do I have a variety? Variety, I guess, is less important with 4 questions than it is in an entire test. Okay, so when I say aligned with the appropriate UKDs, and also if you're going to do point values, this is not an essay question, it's more of a short answer question. And so here the question is listed. Why did the Immigration Act of 1924 allow Mexicans and Filipinos to immigrate to the United States? That's aligned with knowledge goal 6. It's worth 4 points. 2 points for talking about fulfilling the need for workers, and 2 points saying that they were part of a U.S. colony. So that shows you what you're looking for, and it makes it easier to grade it or to evaluate it. So this is a good example of a short answer question that you might put on the discussion board. Okay, so what's due? I've taken off this article. I'm going to ask you to read and interact with chapter 6. That will help us deal with what we're going to talk about next week. I'm going to ask you to peer review your partner stage 3. They should have posted it by now. Before our next class, you will need to peer review it for your partner. And then you need to write your 4 test questions and post them on the discussion board. During class next week, I'm going to give you some time to pilot 2 classmates' test questions. So I'll start the video and then I'll ask you to pause, go to discussion board, and pilot to see, answer their questions below so that they can see a typical response. You'll have somebody pilot your test questions, and the way they answer it will help you know if you need to change it before you send it out. Because I am going to ask you again to send this out to goal is 15 people. They don't have to be college students or high school students. They can be anybody. So you can send them to family members. You can send them to roommates, former roommates. You can send them to each other, whatever you want to do. But we're going to try to get this data, and I'll show you how to do a Google form if you don't know how to do that. We're going to try to get this data, and that will allow us to do our formative assessment analysis. So this is, again, a squeezing together of 2 different assignments to give you the experience of crafting test questions, but also the experience of analyzing data that you glean from asking questions. And we're going to treat it more as formative assessment questions in this assignment. So this is what you need to be working on. And then I want to show you the pause and post if you haven't already seen it. This is where you're pausing and posting. And then I also want to show you the syllabus, the updated one that's on Canvas right now. So here we are. This is week 12. You've done this already. You're watching the video and done the Padlet post, this guy right here. We're going to have our Zoom hangout where you can ask questions. And then before the next class, your 4 test questions should be posted in discussion board. And you should peer review your partner stage 3. You also should have read this chapter, and that will get you ready for next week. Watch the video. During that video, you're going to pilot test questions in discussion board and provide feedback. And then before the next class, you're going to send that out, and you're going to submit your own stage 3, which you've modified based on your peer review results. You're going to submit it for feedback. And then you'll have your formative assessment results ready. We've got some stuff to do here, and then your formative assessment analysis will be due. And then we've got grading, and that's it. Once you've submitted this, you've done all the raw material for your final. You'll have to do, revisions based on the feedback you received from your stages 1 and 2, as well as the feedback that you'll get for stage 3. But you'll be pretty much ready to submit your final. This assessment analysis is the next thing that's due. And if you need more time for that, I can always extend it. But that's what I slowed down a little bit. I broke some pieces apart. I think I feel better. Sometimes you just don't know until you get there. I think this is a more manageable schedule for you guys. I will, when we get here, I've actually made a to-do list for that too. So I'll post another link to where you should be with your unit plan. And I will see you guys at 10 so we can ask some questions and just see how everyone's doing. Thanks, you guys. See you soon.